Okay, my Samsung fridge is on the fritz yet again. This started with this number starting to flash when it was at the assigned temperature. And when you unplug it and plug it back in, it'll show the current temperature. And ultimately what's happening is the defrost element has failed. It has opened up and stopped defrosting the ice inside. So this is be the third time I've done it with this fridge that I've had for 15 years. I'll document it so I remember next time. Ultimately, we're going to remove this panel and assemblies in order to get access to the defrost element. There's screws here, there's one inside there, here. Pull this out, 2 screws holding that down, and just basically you got to take every screw out that you see until you get the thing released. Okay, I've got the shelves out and most of the screws out. When you pull the little cool zone out, you have to unplug it here. And I believe I'm gonna have to unplug the light connector up here. So it's kind of wedged in there. Oops, there's a screw I forgot right there. Come back to that. So pull down, and then you got to get that connector in the back loose. There's 2 of them. And they have little fingers on the right to get out. And then this kind of wedged under there. He'll pop out. Set him down over here. And then we'll see where our real problem is occurring. So once I pull back on here, okay, I must have another screw in there. Hold on. You have to pull off the light cover, and then there's 2 more screws in there. Okay, with those screws out, you'll now have to disconnect the power for these lights, but you'll see what it looks like back here all frozen up. Here and here. I'm gonna set the phone down. Okay, now let's see what it looks like. Sitting down here. You can see over here. This is the problem. There should be no ice on here. And it's actually stolen all of my insulation that I'm gonna have to tape back onto there. This circuit here, there's one is the Freon, I believe. But in any case, I'm gonna blow dry and melt all this ice, and then I'm gonna pry out the old defrost and put in a new one. And I'll show you how that's done. Yeah, I've got all the ice defrosted on here. So a little history here. This refrigerator is now 15 years old. 5 years in, same problem started, and that's why when I initially found it. Turns out you'd have to have a plumber come and replace this whole assembly because this is the line with the Freon in it. But what you can do is decouple. You can't buy it separately, but you can buy this whole thing as one, and then this defrost assembly will come out, and then you just pry out the old defrost assembly, you get the new assembly, and you swap it in. You have to cut the lines and then seal them back up. So this is actually the second one. This was done at the 10-year mark, and now I'm at year 15, and I'm doing my 3rd one. This time I went ahead and bought 2 of them, so we'll see if I'm still putting up with this crap in 5 more years at the 20-year mark. I'll go over here to the new one, just so you can see how it looks. Just like the old one. So we're gonna pry this piece away, and this piece we'll just throw away. We won't need that. All right, I'll start prying away, and I'll give you some tips along the way. Now, if I look down here, you can kind of see the chafing and the burning on this line. You can measure resistance to see that it's open, and I'll do that when I get it out. Do that with an old one and a new one. This is the circuit that's actually heating the defrost assembly. And you can see it's just a loop here to this plug, and you should have about 100 ohms there. If you go and look at your old one and measure that same connector, you'll probably see it's open.
check mine and verify that.
Measuring the old burnt up one, and you can see it's definitely open. Now sometimes, in the way it'll work intermittently, I'm gonna mess with it over here and see if I can. Yeah, this one looks like it's finally all the way, but sometimes it would make contact and work for another couple of months, but once it's gone this far, it's pretty burned out, I'm guessing. I'm not sure. So anyway, I know for sure that this one's done, but I also know that because I've done it 3 times. All right, we'll get to work getting the old one off, and I'll show you how that's done.
The whole assembly is going to come out of these things, and you can use your fingers to, or some needle nose pliers to knock these over. I don't remember it being this smooth. When you get to these end pieces here, you got to use some needle nose pliers. They're in there a little better. Now we're making progress. Now I just got to do that every row. I'll come back when I'm done. Okay, a little correction. You just need to get the corner spots here. These little tabs are the hard ones, and then it'll just, with a little thumb force, it'll pop out of these skinny ones. Needs a little more. If it doesn't want to come, you can see if one of them didn't quite release on you. Just missed one here. And don't be worried about tearing this thing apart. You're not gonna use it again. Okay, now we also have to get these little guys holding this down out of the way, so that takes a little more work. So let me pry those up, and that's how you get it out. Looks like there's something holding it down here too. Back. Okay, so I've got these guys away from these attachments. Let's see if we can get it off in one shot here. All free. Tricky part is getting it up and over this. See if I can use a phone stand. Try to manhandle it a little bit. These things are sharp too. Cut my finger already once, so be careful and watch your wife's table. Now they're released from the bottom. The trick is getting it back into the fridge because it's got to go onto the back side here. So easy to get this off. So now remembering how to do that to get it working. So we're gonna have to splice one of these wires at some point to get around the new stuff. So I'm gonna go take the old one out, and then I'll be back to put this one in.
I want to point out something. There's some insulation that comes with it that's supposed to go right here, and I didn't get it in very good last time. You can see I'm burning a hole in the back of my fridge. That's not good for the fridge, but you know, whatever. So let's see, how do we get this thing out? Ultimately, I think this is the wire we're gonna snip. We're gonna snip the red and white wire. Maybe on both sides? I'll find out when I can tell that I snipped it before because it's spliced back together, but don't know if I spliced that one or not. Maybe just this one. All right, we'll see what happens. Dilemma you'll face, you get it loose and it's like, how the hell is it gonna come out of here? It's a loop. But the physical loop is this. This is the open. This is what you're gonna snip to get by this cable. So you're gonna snip this so that somehow we can get it out. But it's still gonna be awkward when you're trying to figure out like, okay, well, how do we get there? So let me monkey with this some more. And snip the red lead. And that means I'm gonna be able to get this side somehow to come up and around here. This is the way. Bend it a little bit. Hard to do while I'm holding the phone. This has to go on the front side. Okay, I'm not going to film that while I pull it out because I can't hold the camera. This piece was stuck together, so this was like stuck like that. It should be free like that. Now that it's free, I can get it out. Told you it would come out. Then you just gotta pop this guy back into place so that when you put everything back together, it's ready for you. So this has seen better days, but okay. I'm gonna work on getting the new one back in. Then I'm gonna splice that wire and clean it all back up. You splice this red wire to get everything back in. You wanna give yourself space. Don't do it too close to the connector, or you will have a tough time splicing it. So just a quick tip before I get it back in there. Okay, I've got the new defrost assembly in. I haven't spliced it back in yet. One of the things I noticed, the way this has to work, you splice the wire back to get it plugged in up here, and this thing ends up in a hard 180-degree turn. I'm going to splice in some more wire, and I'm going to try this time running it up and around this way, so that it's not on such a hot, hard turn. Maybe that's got something to do with why it burns out at that spot right there. Could be nothing, but we'll see if it buys me any more time. So I'm gonna get some wiring out and splice that in. Be back. So I had to scratch my idea about extending the length of that cable. It's a solid strand of wire. It's not twisted wires, twisted pairs. So I don't have anything to make that a good connection. So I'm going to splice it together like that and solder it up, put a little heat sink over the top of it, and put it away for another 5 years. But that contact is probably why it's brittle and it burns out and breaks. End of story. All right, would you look at that? Come on, zoom. Focus. Not bad for 1 hour of solder training in Navy school 26 years ago. All right, I'm gonna heat sink that up, put all this shit back together. Okay, I've wired everything back in. Now it's time just to button it all back, put it back together. While you have it out, it's always a good idea to wipe everything down and clean it up while you're in there. So that's my plan next. And next stop will be reassembly, which is just the reverse of everything I did to get here. And then I'll turn it on. Okay, everything's put back together, turned on. I'm at 35 degrees, the freezer held 35, 69 on the fridge, so it takes about 30-40 minutes for it to start to come down to verify that things are working. Special note, if you forget to attach the two metal connectors up here, or power connectors up here, the fridge won't turn on, not just the light. So save yourself the heart attack.